to be best friends with somebody to really care about them. And I was not really close to Mike. And there's some truth to the fact that he didn't let you in a lot. He was just going on his way, doing the best he could with what he had.
I mean, how do you honor a guy who had done or performed as Mike had as a person, dealing with his illness, as he did as a football player? He made a mark on all of us. So how do you do something that's suitable?
All of those significant things that happen over the course of a life, good and bad, marriage, children, grandchildren, careers, travel, all of that, we've all experienced. Those of us who are here now, approaching our 50th reunion, we've had that experience.
And to say, well, Mike, we're going to make you an Eph Legend, frankly, that didn't seem to be enough. It just came up short.
I think that helps to make a lot of sense out of why it is that we all, and it's not just members of the class of 1964, but we all feel so strongly about Mike and so strongly about doing something to remember him and recognize him.
But as it turns out, I really do care about him.
In the beginning, Mike was this distant figure who we all looked up to because of his skill as a football player. But there was something about Mike that made you realize that he valued you as a person.
He built up the other person rather than himself. He listened to the other person.
He made you feel like his friend. He made you feel like, yeah, you know, we can sit, we can talk.
I particularly remember the Wesleyan game. We had, playing down in Coalfield, we had won that game, and all of us walking up with Mike to the varsity field to watch them play, and sitting in the grandstands and yelling, "Go Purple!" And Mike yelled, "Go Purple, go Purple!" Everybody ebullient, and 18-year-old kids drinking Coca-Cola and just saying, "Go Williams!" Mike was very much part of that.
My first initial reaction was, boy, this guy's a big, strong, athletic-looking guy, and he had a great smile from the very first, and he was a great roommate. He was incredibly intense on the football field, but in the room and in life, he really was a pretty relaxed guy.
You knew Mike was there. When he said something, it was either funny or right on point.
He was great company. He was a very good conversationalist. He liked to talk almost about anything, and he was he talked easy, and I think it made you at ease when you're with him.
He was full of one-liners, and he was very good at just sort of dropping them at the right time.
And he was smart. He was a very smart, not unlike a lot of people at Williams. He was a very smart guy.
He was nice to everybody. He wasn't deferential, and he was a very strong person underneath. You could tell.
I guess that I had a great affection for Mike, if that were to be the way I would distill it.
He was president of the fraternity, I believe. He was president of a senior class in high school. Those things don't just come to you. People admired Mike.
Mike had the touch. He was a first-class guy. He was grace. Yeah, that's what people liked about him. How can he be so tough and be so graceful?
I never saw him ruffle. I never saw him angry. I never saw him doing anything that would hurt anybody else except on the football field.
First game against Trinity, it was tackled by Reily, tackled by Reily, tackled by Reily.
I knew that he was going to be the starting center and linebacker, and that I'd be watching him from the bench.
He moved so beautifully. He glided. He didn't bustle. He was so smooth. First time as a varsity player, and Dartmouth was, what's going on? What's this guy doing to us?
There were a lot of good football players at Williams. There were very, very few great football players here. He could shed these guys. It didn't make any difference the size of them. He was able to stand them up, to move them aside, and to make the tackle.
He also had a tremendous ability to deliver a tackle or a block. He had an ability to get a great balance and to get himself in balance and then deliver it.
He had speed, he had quickness, obviously a very smart football player.
He went in and people paid attention to what he was saying because he himself delivered, and they knew that. And so they wanted to follow his example. Even if he was young, they knew, hey, this guy's going to hit.
Mike suddenly rushed off the field holding his hand. And I looked at his hand, and his fingers were way out of joint. It was as if they were pointing in an entirely different direction. And it wasn't like looked like he was in pain. It wasn't that he was complaining, but he went, holding his hand, he went right up to the trainer. And what the trainer did was simply pop his fingers out, put them back in, tape them up, and Mike was in for the next play.
He worked very hard, and he was very team-oriented. Would really help the other teammates and encourage them.
I liked his efficiency. I was very comfortable with that because I didn't have to waste time and effort on trying to prop him up. He propped himself up.
I didn't know he had set the record for tackles. I had no idea he'd been All-American his second year. I knew he had his as a sophomore.
I have no reservations about saying I think Mike would, if had he wanted to, would have made a wonderful professional football player, and he had the talent to do it.
He played at such a high level sophomore year that we were all still in awe of what he was doing junior year too, right?
But things didn't come as easily to him late his junior year.
The quality of his play was still the best of anybody on the football field. Yeah. Our team or any other opposing team.
After the season ended, Mike and I were elected co-captains. We both were optimistic for the upcoming season, our senior year.
Mike and I and others were living out in what was called the wing of our fraternity house at the Perry House. Mike, who lived had room next door, had been coughing uncontrollably all night long, and by breakfast had left and presumably went to the infirmary and then down to New Orleans. And none of us knew what was wrong.
Mike was tested for an obvious ailment, at which point he learned he had Hodgkin's disease.
And he got treated and came back. And of course he had lost a lot of weight and he was tired.
He certainly did not want anybody to pity him or in any way make allowances for this disease that somehow showed him as a diminished person.
Mike wanted to be like he was before, and he tried so hard. And he tried to do some sprints or run the hills, and he couldn't do it. And you couldn't go up to him and say, Mike, I don't want you doing that.
He came to every practice. He helped the other linebackers. He helped the ball boys. He did everything he could as captain and as a person to be part of the team.
I was so proud of the way our team members handled it. They acted far beyond their years, I'll tell you.
We all shared those last essentially 18 months of his life and watched our classmate carry on through an extraordinarily difficult time for him and gained an appreciation for the grace and courage with which he faced his final months. And of course, one of the things that was so impressive about Mike is that he kept up with his studies all through this time. He was absolutely committed. In fact, I think it was his motivating force to graduate with his class.
I can remember graduation day, walking up to the field where we were holding graduation, seeing Mike standing there waiting for us. And then he joined us when we got there.
That was his main thing in life at that point, because everything else didn't look like it was going to be possible. He was going to make this happen.
And we're all happy and we're carrying our degree and probably taking our hats off. And I looked over to the right, to the pine trees behind Williams A. And there's Mike, looking at everybody, happily moving on to the rest of their life. And to this day, I still think of Mike over in the pine trees, and I want to go over, and I see myself going over and giving a real hug.
I received an email from Dick Quinn, and he asked if Mike's number had been retired. I said, of course not. Williams does not retire jerseys, nor should it. And Williams had never had a number 50 for 47 years. So I called Coach Frank Navarro, and I caught Coach Navarro off guard.
Len used to order all the equipment to Jack Henderson, the Williams Co-op. So it became my turn as a head coach to order equipment. And I didn't know that much about it, so I had to ask the equipment manager, how do you do this thing, you know? Because you had a budget. And you had to order pads, and you had to order helmets, and get the helmets reconditioned. And the other thing you had to order was a light practice jersey and a dark practice jersey. A light game jersey, that's home and away, and you know, we always wear white away. We came to number 50, and we didn't know what to do with it, you know, and we talked, and I don't remember what we said, but it came out that we're not issuing this anymore. We're not ordering it. Okay? So let's put it away.
Jimmy put the top on the box and wrote "Do not issue" on it, and put it on a shelf in the equipment room down at Cole Fieldhouse.
Now, I didn't say anything to anybody, athletic director or anybody, because we didn't retire jerseys in those days.
It's been set aside now for 48 years, and nobody's worn that number since Mike took it off for the last coin toss for the Amherst game in 1963.
I think some coaches wanted to get it back in the system, in the inventory, but I don't know, I kind of felt something behind it.
We're missing Mike. That's what we're talking about here, not the football player. Football is something that he did, not what he was.
Football is not the centerpiece, or victory is not the centerpiece, but that courage and caring for others is really what it's all about. Remembering how Mike dealt with death could help us get off the couch and head in the right direction.
It was as though all of us had finally found a way to express how we felt about Mike, because we were looking for a way to remember Mike, and this was a way to do it.
He's what we all want to be. He has the courage, he's got the commitment, he's basically seen beyond his physical circumstances to something greater, and that's what inspiration's all about. So that's why you honor a man like that.